We've all been there. You're standing in a museum, staring at a painting, and all you can think is, I don't get it. To me, knowing the story behind an artwork is a huge part of knowing how to look at it. I'm Amanda, the host of the Art of History podcast, where we view history through the lens of some really great works of art. Each episode, we dive deep into the bigger picture behind some familiar and maybe not so familiar pieces. Check out Art of History now wherever you get your podcasts.
Culture Kids! Welcome to the show. We are a family podcast dedicated to empowering a generation of kind and empathetic creators and citizens of the world. Join us as we make friends from all over the world, embracing our differences with kindness and curiosity while celebrating our similarities.
Hello. My name is Asher and I'm your host along with my mom, Kristen.
Today we have Dr. Victor Santos, children's book author and linguist, back on the show again to learn more about languages and accents and all the wonderful things it tells us about the people around us.
Before we get started, we have a birthday shout out.
We want to say happy birthday to Shayna from Colorado Springs, who is turning 8 years old. Shayna wants to travel to New York City someday.
Happy birthday, Shayna.
And we also want to say happy birthday to Jaden in San Francisco, California. Jaden is turning 6 years old and wants to travel to Japan someday. And grown-ups, please don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts so that our show can reach more families around the world. And also, before we are joined by Victor, if you have not listened to our first episode on languages, we recommend doing so before tuning into this one.
Okay, here comes Victor. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kristen. Hi, Asher. Hi, everybody listening. It is so much fun to be back. I had such a great time talking to you guys last time. Thanks for inviting me again.
Thanks for being here. Last time, we explored what languages mean in our world and how they represent who we are in so many beautiful ways. Victor recently published a children's book called What Makes Us Human, which was published in over 20 languages and an official children's book for the UNESCO International Decade of Indigenous Languages. If you haven't purchased the book yet, we highly recommend grabbing a copy.
So we know there are over 7,000 languages. Wow. But we also learned about dialects in other episodes. Can you tell us how it's different from languages?
Totally. So I can tell you right now, usually in linguistics, right? A dialect is a different variation of the same language.
What does that mean? Variation?
A variation is a difference or change in something. For example, when you see different colors of the same kind of flower, those colors are variations.
So basically, when you talk about a dialect, you're talking about variations of the same language, but everybody is still able to understand one another to a very high degree.
It's the same language but can sound a little different. What kind of dialects are there?
So for example, you might talk about an American English dialect, a British English dialect, an Irish English dialect. You might talk about a Bostonian dialect, a New York dialect. You might talk about a Midwest kind of dialect.
Whoa. Oh, so those are locations, like America, England, Boston, which is a city, and New York.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so let me give everyone a fun example. So Asher's aunt, my sister, we call her aunt or auntie. In northern United States, most people pronounce it as aunt too. But in southern United States and some parts of the East Coast, a lot of people pronounce it as aunt. Another example of a dialect is the word soda versus pop. In the Northeast and West Coast, a lot of people say soda. In the Midwest, pop is more common.
But is there one correct English dialect? Like, is there a king of dialects?
Not at all. There isn't one universally correct English dialect in everyday settings. Variations exist everywhere in the world, and what's considered correct often depends on context and cultural standards.
If the variation between two ways of speaking is so big that people start having trouble understanding one another, that's usually when we start calling those different languages.
Could you give us an example?
Portuguese, my native language spoken in Brazil and Portugal, is a different language from Spanish, spoken in Mexico, in Argentina, because we can't really understand each other too much, right? So these are different languages.
Thank you for this great example. Portuguese and Spanish are kind of like cousins. They have some words that sound somewhat alike and share similar ways of talking, but they are not the same language.
So even though it might kind of sound similar, if they can't understand each other, it could be a language, not a dialect.
You got it. You can also think they're speaking in different countries as well. So there's a lot of things that will determine whether it's a different language or it's a different dialect. But basically, the most important thing is if people can understand one another, it usually is a variation, a dialect of the same language.
Yeah, like some of the Pokemons on the show definitely have their own dialects. Like, I can understand them, but if they're like a cute Pokemon, they can say things differently.
Next, we're going to learn about accents. We meant to say accents. And I'm very excited to learn about accents because I think they can tell us so many wonderful stories about our friends and their families. While a dialect is a special way of speaking with unique words and grammar, an accent is the way someone sounds when they speak, influenced by factors like where they're from and how they learn to talk.
Could you tell us more about accents?
An accent is basically dependent on the sounds that you have inside of your head.
In your head? Like what you think something sounds like? Hello?
Your accent comes from the sounds you heard growing up, which makes almost like a sound map in your brain. Your tongue muscles also get used to making those sounds. So when you learn a new language, your brain and tongue still try to use the sounds they know best.
And what is really cool is that sometimes you can actually guess where somebody comes from when they talk from the way that they speak. So you can have an accent inside of the same country. So for example, Boston and New York and many other places. Everybody has an accent, and that's very important for us to understand.
That's cool.
If you speak, you have an accent. You have a way of pronouncing words. It could be different from somebody else, or it could be the same.
Yep. Sometimes it might not seem like everybody has an accent because those around you, like your family, neighbors, and friends at school, may pronounce things similarly to you. But if you visit another country, people there might hear your speech differently and recognize that you have a different accent. Like the way I speak, most people outside of the US will say, "You speak with an American accent."
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So can you just change your accent if you move somewhere new? Like, how do you do that?
I love that question. Some people are actually very good at changing the way they speak, right? Even inside of the same language, they might be, let's say, from Iowa, and then they go to New York. They actually start talking like people in New York. And one of the reasons they do that is because they're trying to be friendly. And they're like, hey, I really like the way you guys talk. Let me talk like you. But not everybody is able to do this. We can't just switch off the way we speak in one place and start using a completely different set of sounds.
Why not?
If I say, hey, you've never played basketball before, or you only know how to play very little. Now, could you please start playing like LeBron James? Well, no, I don't think I can, because I haven't had enough practice to play like LeBron James.
Ooh, or like Stephen Curry.
Yep. And you might start learning a foreign language, and suddenly you cannot just sound like everybody else who speaks the language, because you need practice. You need to speak it enough. You need to train your ears. It's like a muscle. Your tongue is a muscle. You need to work it out. And some people are very good at making their muscles grow extremely fast. Others, no, they have different talents, right?
Everybody's good at different things. Learning soccer is fun and I'm good at it, but it's hard for me to draw things.
Yep, or for a lot of people, they might not have the resources or the time to practice a certain accent. But let's say you're an actor on TV or even a podcaster, you might have what you call dialect coaches or tutors that can help you learn a new accent or dialect. But of course, not everybody might have the same resources.
But what if a friend has an accent that I can't understand?
That's a really good question. That happens to all of us, and that's okay. What is most important is how we ask them to clarify what they just said.
My mom used to say when I was growing up, it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. But if you start with, hi, my name is blah, 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 and I'm actually so fascinated by people who speak different languages or talk in a different way. Would it be okay if I ask you what language you speak or where you come from, right? So always ask permission and put it in a positive frame. Now they're going to be much more open to talk to you in a friendly manner.
Yep, and you could kindly ask them to repeat what they said a little slowly, or you can ask them to write down what they wanted to say.
Yeah, so just smile and ask nicely.
Exactly. You know, when I first moved to America, it was really scary when I couldn't speak English and had to go to school. And even when I did speak, I spoke with an accent that I'm sure it was very hard to understand. However, I still remember the friends that showed so much kindness and patience and still played with me even though they couldn't understand everything I was saying. It's been over 30 years and some of those wonderful people are still my friends to this day.
Yeah, I like hearing people with a Korean accent because it reminds me of my grandma, and she is the best grandma in the whole world.
So as we mentioned in our last episode, one of the things I love about our country is its incredible diversity, not just in the way we look, but the way we talk.
Like accent.
Yep, and the way we think, dress, and eat. What does having an accent tell us about a person?
So an accent is almost like a window into the fact that somebody may have something that you don't that could be added to your toolbox.
Like what?
If somebody comes from a place that is different from yours, they might have a different culture. They might do things differently than you do. They might know different foods. They might know a different kind of music because that kind of music doesn't exist in your culture, right? So usually when I meet somebody that has a different accent, I almost think of it as a free plane ticket to a different culture. Yeah! I don't have to go to that place. All I have to do is start talking to this person to find out where they come from and start exchanging information.
So your brain will get bigger and bigger, and they might play a cool video game in their country that I don't even know about. I mean, I guess that's why we do this podcast, so we can learn about how our friends do things at home and exchange ideas.
Exactly. The only other thing that I would add is show you're interested in who they are and where they come from. Everybody likes to feel valued, right? So if there's somebody whom you know who speaks a different language, comes from a different place, ask them questions about their home country. Ask them questions about things they do that are different from the way things are done here. People love showing their country and their customs to people who are not used to those. It makes them feel important and it makes them feel valued as well. So every time we show an interest, people get happy.
Yes, because you never know what kind of wonderful friendships you'll make that will enrich our lives when you experience this. Well, Victor, this was so much fun having you again on the show. Before you go, do you have anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Alrighty, and this one is for the grown-ups. If you are interested in getting to know my book, What Makes Us Human, a little bit better, and reading it with your child, talking about the importance of language and culture and discovering some new facts, you can find What Makes Us Human on Amazon, on bookshop.org, and you can also check my website where you can see some other books that I have published. My author website is www.authorvictorsantos, that's VICTORSANTOS.com. www.authorvictorsantos.com, and there you can find the link to follow me on Instagram, and I would love to get a message from you saying hi.
Thank you, and see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
And to our Culture Kids family, do you know anyone with an accent different from yours? Next time you make a friend with a different accent, ask them about the languages they speak. They might teach you some cool words or phrases, and you can learn something new together. We invite you to stay curious and make friends from different cities, towns, or even countries. You never know what kind of new games, jokes, or ideas you'll discover because friends come in all colors, languages, and backgrounds, each with something unique and amazing to share. And as always, here at Culture Kids, you and your family are welcomed, included, and celebrated for exactly who you are. Thanks for being you.
Joke time! I'll go first.
Go.
Where did the kitty learn to swim?
Where?
The kiddie pool! Get it? Kiddie pool? Like a little pool, but like it has the word kitty in it, so it's for kiddies, not kids.
Excellent. Okay, my turn. What do you call a kangaroo's lazy joey?
A joey is a baby kangaroo, right?
Yes, so the joke is, what do you call a lazy baby kangaroo?
What?
A pouch potato! Because the baby kangaroo, Joey, they live in their mommy's pouch. Pouch potato, couch potato.
Got it.
Thanks for joining us today. Please stay tuned for episodes with Jamaica Cultural Alliance on the beauty of the island and also Cambodian night markets. All coming up in a few weeks, so hit subscribe and reach out to us at hello@culturekidsmedia.com for any questions, comments, and more. Till next week.